Hello everyone, Jared the Greek here with your video game news for December 7th, 2015. If I sound a little under the weather, it's because I am, so bear with me folks. Obviously this weekend had one of the biggest gaming things we've seen in a while, the PlayStation Experience. There was a bunch of trailers released, all of which can be found online, and I believe on PlayStation Network at this point, and a ton of games they talked about, so I'm going to try to just go over the main highlights, because covering everything would make this an hour-long podcast. Some of the highlights I saw that kind of caught my eye was that Uncharted 4 was going to have branching dialogue paths, which could be interesting and make it worthwhile to play a couple extra playthroughs on the game. Battleborn was confirmed to have local split-screen multiplayer. Kind of nice seeing that in a modern-day title. And in order to make Ramses go squee, Yakuza 0 is coming to the US. Ramses is a huge fan of the Yakuza series. I don't blame him, they're pretty awesome games. Finally, they showed off a little bit more of the new Ratchet & Clank game. We all knew this was coming, they talked about it at E3, but it's really cool to see how it's turning out, and it could be a lot of fun on PS4. Beyond that, they also brought up their new VR system, which, I gotta admit, 3D movies make me a little nauseous. I can only imagine what VR is going to do to me. But for those interested in VR games, they talked about Rez Infinite, a Psychonauts prequel game, Ace Combat 7, and Eagle Flight from Ubisoft, in addition to a couple other games. It's kind of cool to see that they're really taking this whole VR thing seriously. It's a bit more interesting question as to how much this will cost, who will support the peripheral, and of course, will it make you nauseous? In addition to that, a few other games were talked about that I think kind of deserve their own little moments here. Ni no Kuni 2, Revenant Kingdom, was shown off. It's going to be on the PS4. It still has those beautiful Ghibli art designs, and the world is supposed to be bigger, more complex, and have way more content than the original. So this will definitely be an RPG to check out on PS4 when it finally comes out later, but in the meantime, Ni no Kuni 1 is on sale all the time on PSN, so if you have a PS3, download Ni no Kuni and check it out. It's a pretty decent game. Double Fine was also there to talk about some of their new projects. They are going to do a remaster of Full Throttle and a remaster of Day of the Tentacle. Because doing original projects would be too much effort, let's just remake stuff from 20 years ago. Bravo, Double Fine. Keep up the good work. Of course, the game that everyone was flipping out about was Final Fantasy VII Remake, which was revealed to be an episodic game. Now before you start screaming and yelling and jumping up and down, here's an interesting thing from the creator that caught my eye. They said that each episode will have, quote, its own unique story, end quote. This makes me wonder, are we getting Final Fantasy VII cut up and changed dramatically to have each game be a real complete story? Or are we getting episodes that fill in extra parts of the story? You know, like maybe a Barrett prequel game, or maybe a Vincent continuation that's a decent game as opposed to Dirge of Cerberus. Or are we going to get like Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VII 2, and Cloud Returns, Final Fantasy VII 3? Who knows? But at least this allows us to speculate on some cool possibilities for Final Fantasy VII. Of course, maybe this is a mistranslation and the games are going to be $20 to get you through Midgar, then $20 to get Eris killed, then $20 to go to space for a little while, then $20 to fight Crystal Weapon, then $20 to finally fight Sephiroth. But hopefully it's the other way around, where, we can get some really cool expansion on the Final Fantasy VII storyline and universe via some episodes that all tie together. After all, they did say that each episode is going to have as much content as a regular game, which would heavily imply that this isn't going to be cutting this into small, tiny pieces, but actually be a full, expanded Final Fantasy VII universe. But time will tell. Speaking of huge universes, Bungie has also announced that they will be adding Sparrow Racing to Destiny. Miguel kept talking to me about that and how I need to bring it up in the news, and, well, it seems kind of cool, actually, from everything I've seen. It should be active starting tomorrow, I believe, but no matter what, it'll be involved with the patch that'll include all the Titan changes that I mentioned in the previous news episode. Finally, in a story that kind of comes close to my heart, Senran Kagura Estival Versus has not only been solicited for a US release, but it will also have the Endless Summer Edition, which is a special edition version of the game that features a soundtrack, some pinup cards, and an art book, just in case you can't get enough sexy ninja action. It'll retail for about $60 on PS4 and $50 on Vita, and not only that, but the standard edition will also be available as a download and in disc form. Something about sexy ninjas killing stuff that I just love. Anyhow, that's your news for the day. You can find me on Twitter at Jared the Greek. You can learn more about the Secret Stage show and all our doings by following our Twitter account at @SR_Secret Stage. Also, please subscribe to this channel, Secret Stage Games. It's how we know you're watching. And, of course, share the links around if anyone else who's interested in game news. In addition to that, we recently posted all of us together again, the whole team, playing Disgaea 5. So please, check that out, listen to all our crazy banter, especially if you've been missing the Ramses and Jared Ramble On segments, which will be coming back, I promise. Ramses' job just kind of changed his schedule around, so we're working on it. Trust me. Finally, as I close out, I want to remind you that I'm a player, so don't be a player hater.